I have an apple martini and a cheese toasty.
We had a direct threat from Vlad
Oh,
Logan, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I got 15 minutes to get in and out of there. I gotta pay another €7 parking.
Let's roll this out, action team style.
See, I didn't choose action. Action chose me.
When the world calls for peace, they bring the action.
What took you so long?
I'm sorry I was waiting for a toasty.
How was it?
Cheesy.
Explosive new comedy, Action Team, this March on ITV2.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a huge round of applause to some of the people you saw on there and some of the people responsible for this great show. Please give it up to Tom Davis, who played Logan Man. We have James De Frond, who was the co-creator and director alongside Tom. We have Derek Riddlell, who played Anne. Laura Checkley, who played Monica. And lastly, he played Graham, the sniper in the series. Please give it up for the brilliant Jim Howick. So, hello guys and ladies. Thank you very much for joining us. So, yeah, I think there may have to be some microphone sharing.
Hi.
Yep. Is this on? Yeah. Good.
Is
So-
this one on?
Hi.
Yep. Hello, Birmingham.
Hi, everyone.
Afternoon.
Thanks for coming out.
So, thank you all for taking time to join us. And how did this program come out? How did we get involved with Action Team?
Well, I sort of had this thing that from a very young age, people had said, sort of probably from about the age of 13, I'd be a really good Bond villain. And I thought, why would I not be a good Bond? And it was evident to me because of my size and I'm slightly overweight. So I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to write it myself. And it's evidently quite hard to sort of buy the Bond franchise. So we created our own Bond and our world of James Bond and just made it ridiculously silly.
I just realised, Andy, where are you?
Oh, yeah, bless him.
We're missing one.
Yeah.
There we are. Come on, Andy, come on up here. I've stolen your seat there for a minute. So this show, I mean, I've had the pleasure of sitting through the first 3 episodes of it. And give Andy a round of applause. Hey. Andy, of course, is one of the producers and has helped bring the show to life. It's a very unique spy show. It really does kind of capture a lot of different elements in it. How did each of you find filming it? Did you have good fun with it? Because the comedy runs throughout it, but then you've got your action, you've got your drama, you've got pretty much a hell of a lot of genre squeezed into this 22 to 25 minutes episode. How challenging was that to play, and how challenging was it to write?
It was hard. I'm not going to lie. We made this. I think people think that we had a big budget, and we didn't. We had an ITV2 sitcom budget, which you make a normal sitcom with people talking in a school and a flat and a pub, and we had to make 6 mini action movies. So it was tough and overly ambitious, but we went for it. The tricky thing was with and as you'll see play out in episodes 4, 5, and 6, the story arc really does build and hopefully pay off. And it was hard to get that into 22 minutes. ITV were very kind though, they gave us like 23 and a half. But when you're serving an individual adventure as well as a bigger sort of espionage thriller, it was tricky, but I think we pulled it off. And as I say, it builds and builds. My favourite episodes are 5 and 6, where it all sort of kicks off, as it were.
And we were fortunate that one of the things we decided upon quite early was to make the violence and the stunts as sort of high end as we could. So we're fortunate we got guys that worked on Wonder Woman and the Bourne films and sort of through relationships that we built through myself and Andy on other projects and James, that we sort of had amazing stunt guys, guys who did like Expendables and came on board as a sort of favour really, because one of the things as much as it's a really silly show, we wanted the violence and the stunts to be as real as possible.
Yeah.
And what about for the cast? What was that like to work on a show where there's so many genres in one, effectively?
A dream. I mean, it's you just kind of, I suppose, take the script as it comes. I mean, we knew that it would be a challenge, I think, certain aspects of filming would be a challenge, and we'd have to do things outside our comfort zone. You know, I'm probably happiest when I'm in an office, sort of sat down in the warm. I think most people are. Yeah, I mean, we knew that we'd have to learn new skills and sort of apply ourselves to quite sort of dangerous things, really. Derek and I spent quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I think you had more action
Learning
to do than I did,
Yeah.
though, but I got off quite lightly in the action and the stunts and the fighting. But yeah, I think the thing about it was a real challenge for everybody. Just get the ambition of the project filmed it in, what, 6 weeks, was it? So to get that all in 6 weeks with basically you've got a big stunt every day, or the 3 weeks we were in Bulgaria, they had, Tom would have a fight or a huge stunt every single day. It's a really challenging thing. And I think that's one of the main things about the programme is the ambition of it.
Yeah, it was, I guess when I do a lot of comedy, Jim does a lot of comedy, and you don't get to ever do any sort of action or that drama-led stuff. So for me, learning how to shoot a gun and fight was really exciting. I never thought I'd probably get to do that, you know, just doing comedy.
Did you have to all go through some like an action team training camp before you started filming?
Yeah,
then?
we all had fight training, yeah. And
was quite
apparently I was
intense.
the best, so...
Well, allegedly.
That's what they told
True
you.
story.
And you seem to be kind of, certainly in the show and certainly here from seeing you, seem to be kind of a tight cast, you've all bonded well. How quickly did that take effect? And did you find that very advantageous? I'd imagine it's very advantageous, especially with long shooting hours and things like that.
Yeah, I think we all sort of, some of us knew each other. I think when you're making something like this, we were very fortunate for the level of cast that we got, but also, you know, when you're making something, like you say, you're there for 8-10 hours a day, and you really want to make sure you're having a laugh with people. I mean, as much as I'd like to pretend that it's hard work, a lot of the time it was just pissing about and having a bit of fun. That's what I thought, anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's a great group of people from top to bottom, and you know, you really need that if you're making a show like this where you're really ambitious and you're pushing the boat all the time. You really want to have a group of people to get on.
I don't think we would have done it if we didn't have such a great cast and a tight cast and a great team. We pretty much took everyone that had worked on Murdering Successful, from, you know, cameras to production design, costume, makeup. So we had this close-knit team that sort of had that can-do attitude, which was the only way we were going to make something so overly ambitious, really.
Also had the luxury, which you don't always get, of having about a week's worth of rehearsals before we shot anything, which gave us some room for improvisation as well and getting to know each other a bit better. And it just means on the day when you're filming, when there's such time pressure, that you've done a lot of the hard work and you can just get on with getting on camera what you need.
That was invaluable, wasn't it? Yeah.
And do you think it's good because you mentioned the improvisation, and you've got people like, you've got Tom and James on the set with you, and they've written it, so they know it inside out. What do you think it adds something extra when you know you can improv off someone and you know you can riff off, and then they're not going to be too protective of it if you do?
Yeah, I really enjoy doing that. Yeah, I mean, we were encouraged, you know, time permitting, to have fun, and which is very generous of Tom and James. And you know that some of it's not going to make the cut, and some of it does. You're not expecting it to, but you know, it does create a kind of an environment on set where you feel you have a freedom to express yourself, to explore a character that, you know, it's very often on set you don't have time to play because there's so many things to do. But on this shoot, it was encouraged to have fun as much as possible. Yeah, within reason.
And Andy, I mean, as a producer now, when you're seeing
He's so excited that I didn't get a chair. Look how excited he is.
Andy is.
Do you
really
actually want a chair? As,
well,
well, as a producer in me, I feel like you might.
Thank you, but I'm fine. I'm fine for now. But when you're seeing the scripts, they're turning out to you, and they're giving you all these incredible scenes that they want to film, and locations. I mean, for example, hanging off the top of a train. What's your initial reaction? You're thinking...
Well, we've known each other from doing Murder, so I think what's different and why we got to make this is we never sort of compromise on ambition. And we said, look, we could easily make a sitcom where Tom lived in a flat next door to someone But instead we thought, why don't we do an action comedy, but do the action properly? So I think we looked at it, and like James says, we have quite a big shorthand with all our teams. So we went, look, we start from the point of view is how do we get Tom on top of a train instead of that's impossible. And then we work it out that way, really.
And each of your characters, now, they all have their own specific mannerisms and things, especially, I mean, Tom, the way you walk into a room, one of the bits was on the train where you walk in and say, does anyone need a hero? And you do that, you got that look. How long did each of you take to get your own individual mannerisms right?
Well, it's fun because you sort of, for me especially, you're sort of playing two characters. So sort of, I guess, Logan was kind of the guy that in most cases I'd like to have been. He's suave, he's good with the ladies, drinks martini. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm none of those things. Oh no, he's not that great. But yeah, I mean, it was really, my main thing was to push it as far away from other stuff that I might have done before that I was probably more known for, to sort of do someone who felt a little bit more highbrow, and then you gave him further to fall. But for me, yeah, I mean, playing Vlad was the one where you really just watched as much stuff as you could watch to sort of build that character, to make him sort of truly evil. But you know, when we and James were writing on it, when we started this sort of 2.5 years ago, there wasn't really, you know, Trump wasn't Trump as he is now, and Putin, and slowly it became more satirical, and then the guys that we were kind of spoofing became even more insane than the guy I was playing. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a sort of combination of a lot of those sort of guys that are just fucking with the world at the moment, pardon my language.
And how about the rest of you? How long did it take you guys to kind of get the mannerism to your individual characters?
Derek, that's one for you, I
think,
right?
Mine took a bit of time. As of course, anybody hasn't seen it, I'm playing a man dressed as a woman. I basically watched a lot of videos on YouTube of guys who had transitioned into women, and them talking about what the giveaways are when you're trying to be feminine, and your hand gestures and the way you walk. And so just did a lot of took a lot of advice from these videos, some amazing people, you know, and tried to just feminize myself as much as I possibly could, really. And that's what I did.
You made a great woman.
Thank you.
You did better. I just think you, as an actor, you always have a point of reference. There's always someone in a character that you recognise from somebody that you know. Or so whenever I start looking at a character, I think, who is that like, and who do I know that's like that? And I sort of go from there. I unfortunately know a lot of women like Monica, so I had a lot to draw on. So
I put in a hell of a lot of work. Apparently, Graham is within me. He's within me. I think there's a Graham in everyone. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things, really. I got sent the script, and I immediately knew who this guy was, or my idea of who this guy was, and I just read for James and Tom, and sort of brought him into the room, really. But yeah, you know, he's quite easy for me to find, Graham. Yeah.
And we also we write a script, and we put a lot of time into that, but with a cast like this, we're always open to, you know, letting funny people be funny. So these guys added so much on top of the characters that we had in mind. You know, I think always until you find the right actor to play that character, it then becomes a different thing. It takes on its own life, especially with such a great cast.
And what we've seen so far, there are some pretty incredible and crazy things that happen. Were there any that you guys left out that you really wanted to do, but people like Andy said, hang on, this is way too far over the line, we don't have the budget for this?
No, I think you know what, I mean, and credit to Andy, I think we pretty much did most of the stuff that we wanted. I mean, there was a time when we wanted to build like a massive water tank with a safe in and sort of do the spoof of that Mission Impossible stuff, but man, that was really expensive. Just the water on its own was what we had as a budget to make the whole series. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything that we wrote and everything that we wanted to do, one way or another, we did. I mean, like the stunts, the thing of jumping on the top of the train, we were like, this is happening no matter what, even if we've just got to stand around Croydon with James with a film camera and me just jumping on the back of a train, we're doing it. So it was, we were so ambitious with it, and through the amazing production team, we pretty much did everything we wanted to do.
Yeah, we'd have to adapt as we were writing. I think we'd always start ambitious. I think it's always the best way to be, but the reality of the budget that we had would inform your decision making. So there were a few things that we fought for, but we pretty much ended up doing most of what we wanted to do.
We sort of have one or two action moments each one, and we sort of set ourselves that target, going do those really well, because the comedy only really works if those things look good. So instead of having loads and loads of ideas, we said we definitely need these 5 things, and to do those things as good as Mission Impossible could do was kind of what we set up on the wall.
And what was it like for all of you then when you saw the first episode back and saw everything, all that hard work, all that training come into play? What did you think? What's your reactions to it?
Well, massively rewarding. I mean, as I say, we've been writing it for a long time, and it's, out of everything, I love that kind of genre. I love action, sort of the espionage. So, for me and James, we've been planning it for sort of so long. So to see it to watch it back and sort of see what we accomplished, and when you see the whole series play out, as James has said, for really a small amount of money to make what we've made, I'm sort of bursting with pride, really. And as I say, the cast, when you're sort of, these guys and Vicky and Stephen and Rob, wow, we've put together, I think, something pretty special.
Yeah, we aimed to make it look like a movie. That was that. It's not a sitcom, It's not filmed like a sitcom. It has that cinematic slick feel, and that's what we wanted to do. So therefore, you can then undermine Logan, not getting it up in a sex scene that looks like a scene from Bond, because it looks like a scene from Bond. If it was shot like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that sort of wouldn't work. So we always had these huge cinematic ambitions and managed to sort of pull it off. But it was tough going. We filmed the majority of the 3 weeks we filmed in Bulgaria, which was kind to us, because it's just a country where we could afford to do explosions and car chases and jump on the train. So for that train scene, we could hire a train, and we could hire 2 miles of track that we could just go up and down and up and down. You would just never be able to afford that here. So it was very kind to us, and they do the biggest explosions for the smallest amount of money. It's a little bit dangerous.
Some of the explosions actually that went off on various members. One of them set up some pyrotechnics for me to run for an exploding tunnel. And I went, is this safe? And he went, the only thing you have to think is you have to run faster than the explosions. And I was like, look at me. I can't run faster than fire. So the first one went off in my face, and then you lost me, didn't you, for a bit?
I lost him on the monitor for about 3 seconds. It's in episode 6, and I don't want to spoil anything, but Logan's running down a tunnel and explosions are chasing him. And I said, is this safe? And he said, if Logan starts here, the explosions start here. If he starts running here, then they will just be chasing him. But when we called action, not this one didn't go off first, this one did, right in front of his face. And my monitor just went white for about 3 seconds. I lost him. But luckily, he used the antelope's tail to stop you being badly scarred.
Handsome face. I don't know what I'd have done without my looks.
But the guys out there are quite crazy, the pyrotechnic guys. So whenever they go, how big do you want it? The health and safety guy would always go in and sort of turn it down by 50%.
It was, like when you've been part of a few series and whatever, so for me it was really exciting. I think we always hoped it would look like this, but I think these James and Roy, our DOP, and everyone just has done performed a small miracle really on the tiny budget and the time constraints that we had. I knew, I was hoping it'd look like this and feel like this, and I was really pleasantly surprised. And it's exciting. It was exciting to see, I think, as for us.
So we're going to throw some questions out of the audience. Before we do, I believe the car chase that you alluded to, we got a long, it's our longer clip. Mark, back in the text, so we can have a look at that here on the screen. This is an exclusive clip, by the way, not seen before.
Can you just ease it up just a little bit? Too late for that, mate. I'm in the zone. I was just wondering if that premium package insurance deal was still available. Yeah? And just so I know, does that cover like smashed windows, burst tire, holes? Where do you stand on holes? I like bullet holes. No, you're getting upset, Jalen. You're really getting upset. Just stop shouting at me. What are you doing? Here's one for you. Is there any cover for hitting a statue? Like a human statue? Well, I'm not sure if he's dead or he's just really good at his job.
He's dead. Move on.
That was excellent. So if you could just talk us through how that was kind of filmed and shot then, because that looks pretty cool.
We filmed that in one day.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'd normally probably have at least 5. I would have thought. I don't know how we filmed it. It's a bit of a blur. It was amazing. The location is an old medieval town called Plovdiv in Bulgaria, and we could just close off the town because it was you know we could do that. I think they gave like the mayor a brown envelope, so we could just close off town. So it was just a lot more controllable. If you did a car chase on like main roads, it just throws up a hell of a lot of problems and time and money. So it was just a controlled little route that we'd planned out meticulously. It was
the stunt team we had was a stunt team that have done a lot of action movies like Expendables and and car chasing and those. So they were, like we said, we only got to do this show because they were like the top of their game.
Yeah.
And then you have Tom and Jim and James, who's an incredible director. So that's how just about we can do a car chase in one day.
That is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So it was a mixture of, we had a quad bike with a Steadicam rig on it to get the driving shots and just coordinated damage of the bullet holes and we just sort of blocked it out really meticulously. The thing you have to do when you don't have a lot of time and money is just meticulous planning. So much thought goes into it so that when you're on the day, you know you're only going to have 1 take or 2 take. I mean, that's pretty much for everything, right? But it was all in the planning really, but it turned out really well.
And Tom, Jim, what was it like to actually film that?
Well, it was a lot of fun because I spent pretty much the whole day with Jim in a car. And Jim's, if you're going to be stuck in a car doing stunts with anyone, Jim's pretty much the best person to be with. It was incredible that. It was, to take over a town. And like I say, you constantly, as James said, it was like a blur because you were constantly up against it. So you were sort of as in the moment as you could be. Because, I've been fortunate to have done sort of films where you might do a fight scene and you've got 2 weeks to do it. And then you're doing that, and you've got 1 take, and James is like, "We've got one time where we can blow out this window, so don't mess it up, mate. You're done. That's all we've got." So you're kind of living in the moment as much as you possibly can be, which I guess gives it that sort of sense of the urgency that you see through it.
There's another bit. That's not the end of the car chase, by the way. There's another.
There is more that we get to see.
There's a big ending.
Another 15 minutes.
There's another 15 minutes.
I was sat down the whole day, so I had a great time. I think that was my favourite bit of filming, actually. That, no offence, guys, but yeah, it was a beautiful town, and it was a beautiful day, and there was just a great kind of vibe on set, really, that day. Yeah, it was nice. Well, for me, you were probably tearing your hair out.
We had poor Roy, our DOP, who's in his 60s, crammed in the back of the car for real, shooting it. Whereas I think, on a big budget film, they'd have some sort of, arm connection, whatever, some sort of fancy bit of kit. We just had our cameraman crammed in the back, trying to deal with
I think he's still in the back of that car.
I think he might be, yeah.
So we're going to open the questions out to our audience here. So if you'd like to ask any of our cast a question, please feel free to stick your hand up, and I will come around to you. And we're going to start off with this gentleman here. In the middle-ish. There we go. I'm going to pass the microphone down to you.
Hi there, thanks. What was the most ambitious scene you had planned for the series?
The most ambitious? I think the most ambitious is in episode 6, where Logan has a brutal fight with Vlad. It's the showdown that you've been waiting for, I think. So Tom has a fight with himself, basically. And again, we had about half a day to film it. But it's I hope it is a rewarding, fitting end. But to plot a fight between a bloke that's playing two characters was probably our biggest, most ambitious scene.
I think that or the train. I think the train was pretty crazy. And I mean, as fun as it was, and it's sort of like once in a lifetime you get to jump on the top of a train going 70 miles an hour, it was absolutely terrifying. And the level of health and safety in Bulgaria isn't maybe up to what we're used to. That I was like, is this safe? And the guy went, well, we'll see when the train starts. And I was like, well, I'm either going to end up on the floor or I'll
if
make
he
this.
dies,
So-
he dies.
It was one of our bits on the train is that once we'd recorded it, we kept going up and down at like 80 miles an hour, and then Tom got a call about a house he was trying to buy, genuinely, and we were filming, and he's just on the phone going, I don't know if we can pay that much right at the minute, and the train's going through Bulgaria at 80 miles an hour.
Once you've done it a few times, you just live in normal life up there. You're like, oh, this isn't so hard. I can actually get quite a lot of paperwork done, phoning your accountant and stuff.
Wasn't there like a big branch that nearly killed
they
you or
nearly
killed
took
Roy?
the DOP's head off. There's a branch hanging over the track. And we went back and said to the stunt guy, there's a branch. It nearly killed the DOP. And he went, oh, man, I was so busy looking for bridges, I didn't even think about branches. So, yeah, it was cool. It was an experience.
Other than the lines it sounds like the Bulgarian team gave you, what were the lines that each of you liked from the show that were your favourite ones?
I mean, and I'll get Jim to do it, but there's a moment where Jim and Laura are in a little bar and having a talk about how Graham lost his virginity. And I mean, I wouldn't take credit for the writing on that, but Jim was just freestyling, trying to make everyone laugh, and we've kept it in. But what was it, Jim?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that to be left in the show. It's outrageous. I was just trying to make the cameraman laugh. That's all I was trying to do. But Graham lost his virginity when he was 9 in a sauna. It happens.
There's a scene in episode 1 where we're on the roof and Graham has shit himself. And so James got him just to ad-lib on the end, said just add whatever you want. And I still laugh at "it's in my shoes." That I love that line.
It's a very highbrow show. It's.
Any of you else have any favourite lines?
I can't say any of Monica's because it just involves too many swear words. But she's got some good ones.
I've got a lot of favourite lines. I don't want to. They're in sort of the final episodes. Huxley's got a great line in episode 6. There's a great. Go on.
I do like. There's a scene where Derek is flirting with Jim, and they have a big sort of sexual discussion about a medicated shampoo. And they're talking. That's like one of them. Yeah, it's a good one.
If you couldn't hear that, everyone's saying how much I enjoyed that
my
line,
favourite
but I was
line is-
talking to their mics.
Well, yeah, about the me flirting with Jim and talking about him liking my shampoo and it being medicated was a difficult moment to get through while we were filming, I think it's safe to say. So I like that, yeah.
There were
Flaky
so many
scalp.
funny lines that we lost from that scene as well, which is always heartbreaking, but just because of the time restraints.
Thanks for that.
That's all right.
And we have a question here from this young lady.
Hi. Was there much improvising in it, or was it very much stick to the script, or was there any room to improvise?
I mean, I think, as we were saying earlier, because we sort of knew we'd be up against it with what we had to do every day, and you know, me, James and Andy having made Murdering successful, where sort of nearly all of it is you're flying by the seat of your pants. This was more, we did a lot of the improvisation, we did a lot of the workshopping for a couple of weeks before we started filming. So a lot of the stuff had already been done. And, you know, but on set, we were blessed with an amazing cast of people. And you know, the way James is so open to people just expressing their stuff and messing around and finding different lines. I'm a believer that the best comedy will come from something in the moment, something in the second. So, yeah, we're always open to that kind of thing.
These guys are really generous. They'll let us play around. But the scene where Monica is in with Stephen Gray and the clown, and they're off their face on drugs. That was quite improvised, wasn't it? That was a day of me just being thrown around by Stephen Gray, and that was good
20
fun.
minute
We almost
take, I
lost
think.
you.
That was a 20-minute take. Yeah, just one take, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. Stephen
That was
Graham-
quite improvised, though, wasn't it? Probably
Yeah,
my
yeah.
most improvised moment, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that Stephen Graham is obviously incredible talent, but he really wanted to be in the moment method of being completely off his face. So I sort of pulled Laura to one side and said, like, we're going to jump cut through this anyway. Just let Stephen go for it and react to him, and we'll just go handheld. And so that was, I think that's when ITV came down to visit us in a church with Stephen Graham just as a clown.
Just sort of throwing me around and
Laura
dragging me around
the floor.
on the
thinking, what the
concrete.
fuck have we done here? But that was a heavily improvised scene. So we adapt dependent on what the scene is.
I have a question here from a lady.
Hello. Really looking forward to watching the show, by the way. As a team that have done a lot of comedy work as writers and as actors, how did you feel having such a tight time constraint to then get a load of stunts in that maybe you might not have had a chance to do before?
Terrified, I think is the word. It is like, when we started this off, me and James were obsessed with making the stunts as big and as ambitious as possible. So it wasn't really until, I think, you don't really know it until you're in the mix of it, and then you're like, wow, we've got 10 pages of dialogue to do, and then we've got me jumping on a train or a massive fight. So yeah, and then you realise that action requires quite a bit of time.
Yeah,
James.
It's actually new for me because I'm a comedy man. So, but what you quickly learn is action just takes time and money. That's all it is, you know. And the more ambitious it is, the more time it takes, and you need experts involved, and that's more time and that's more money. And we didn't have that. So it was a tricky juggling act. But we sort of stuck to our guns that when we do action, we serve the action as well as the comedy, you know.
It's kind of like James said, it was planning. James is an incredible comedy director as well as just a regular incredible director. So his preparation and these guys knowing everything they were doing, there wasn't kind of a weak link, else I think we would have spread into days and days and days. They all just nailed it every day, which is how we got through it, really.
Yeah.
And I believe we've got one other clip. Oh, we've got two more clips, so that we're going to just play them both, and you can have a look a bit more at some exclusive clips from the show.
Oh, hello, world. I am Vladimir Shevchenko. In my possession, I have the antelope's tail. Oh, now I have your attention. You might as well shit inside of yourselves. Because come this Wednesday, I shall put the button on antelope's tail, causing destruction that has never been seen on Earth before. This day shall be known as Antelope's Tail Mageddon. Antelope's Tail Mageddon stands. Antelope's Tail. Antelope's Tail Mageddon. All at the same time. Antelope's Tail Mageddon. Ah, you're an idiot, fool. Mike, shut it off.
The whole of episode 6 is Vlad's going to press the button on the antelope's tail. The joke being that he doesn't know what it does and no one really knows what it does, which spreads panic around the world. And literally a month later, you've got the President of America having "My button's bigger than yours" off with Kim Jong-un. So slowly, what we were making, the daftness, it was being mirrored in real life, which is bonkers.
And how was it for you, Tom, playing two characters in the series? You played, obviously, Logan and Vlad.
I mean, weirdly, Vlad took a lot of less work to get into makeup for. I sadly look more like him than Logan. Exciting, you know. It was a dream come true, really. We sort of never really wrote it at first like that, and it was something that slowly sort of we aimed towards. ITV were quite sort of keen to sort of push something along those lines. So yeah, it was great. It was sort of a little bit mind-numbing at times because you sort of forget who Tom was. You know, you'd be Logan for sort of 4 or 5 hours, then you'd be Vlad, then you'd be Logan again. So at the end of the day, you'd be questioning who you are and what you thought about the world.
And we saw in the trailer earlier the line in the bar of the cheese toasty. How did you come up with that? Because that is such a brilliant line. And when I watched it, I fell about laughing at that scene. And I know when one of our tech crew watched the trailer for the first time, they burst out laughing at that particular point. How did you come up with that line? 'Cause it's such a really clever comedy line in a sense.
More than anything, I always wanted to see James Bond order snacks, like crisps or something. I think he must get hungry. Like, I always wanted I'll have a martini, shaken, not stirred, and some crisps, maybe. I'm going to be here for a while. It's a long mission. So a lot of the show has always been sort of undercutting those films and sort of those, Bourne or The Night Manager, which is Andy's favourite show, and sort of basically making it sort of a little bit more silly. And that's where the fun's come.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have with our cast. So please join me in giving a massive round of applause to our cast and production team from the brilliant action team.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Thank you.
So please give it up for Tom Davis, James De Frond, Derek Riddle, Laura Checkley, Jim Howick, and Andy Bereton as well. Then you can see the show on Monday nights at 10 p.m. on ITV2. And if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes, they're currently available on Catch Up. So go home tonight and watch them. So ladies and gentlemen, keep a round of applause to our team.